welcome panelists. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I will just take about a minute and a half or two to just frame, what we will discuss so we can get some sort of an idea. There was, Amitabh, आपकी organization actually a report डाली थी July में, I think in 2021, the Oxfam India's Inequality Report, India's Unequal Healthcare Story. तो इसमें बहुत data है. I encourage everyone to actually read this report. And if my colleague Sohana, you can just click the link. It's on the website. The PDF can be downloaded. If you can put it in the comment section, people can actually download and read the report क्योंकि इसमें सारा data हम बता नहीं पाएंगे. So do put that link so people can just download that link directly. But there are few pointers I just want to put out from that report. One is that it shows the general category performs way better than SC and STs on health, and that is access to health. Hindus perform better than Muslims, the rich perform better than poor, men are better off than women, and urban population is better off than rural population on various health indicators. And after COVID-19, these inequalities, of course, have gone up. We discussed this actually last year as well when we had a session on health, and Sujata ji, aap us session mein shamil thi. In the last few decades, overall health indicators have improved, but the progress has been uneven. The Oxfam report shows the rich on average live 7.5 years more than the poor. Similarly, on average, a woman from the general category lives 15 years longer. That's 15 years longer than Dalit woman. That is huge. And just one more bit of data that I would like to put out at the outset so people get an idea of the landscape we're working on. India's public expenditure on healthcare stood at 1.2% of GDP last year. In 2015-2016, allocation was 33,150 crore. In 2016-2017, this is when Ayush, and we may have different views about whether that is productive, it was increased to 39,532 crore. 2017-18, it was increased to 48,853 crore, which is the allocation to the Ministry of Health and Welfare. 2018-19, 54,600 crores. That is a leap of about 6,000 crores. 19-20, 62,659 crore. And in 2021, it is 67,112 crore, which is still woefully inadequate, because when you see some of the other things that the Oxfam report shows us, whether it is beds per 1,000, doctors per 1,000, availability to primary health care, it is dismal. That is what we are working with. So Amitabh, अगर आप शुरुआत में जरा मैंने basic data जो था, the startling one, इससे भी startling है वो, and I would repeat, people please download the report. The link is in the comment section. आपकी जो findings रही, were you surprised? Were you shocked that it is so bad? And has the trend been at all encouraging, especially post-pandemic?
Thank you, Abhinandan. Thank you for doing this, and congratulations for the new edition of Media Rumble. But just if I could, start by remembering Kamla Bhasin. We've just lost her this morning, and it's been, she's been such a huge inspiration and influence on all of us. It's a tough day for us. So just moving on to your question, Abhinandan, I would say that the sense is that we've been driving blindfolded, and there was a major crash that happened in terms of health with COVID, but we've again started driving and we are still blindfolded. We've just not woken up to the reality of both the inequality that you talked of and the complete inadequacy of the health infrastructure. So there's something fundamentally wrong the way we prioritize health. And just to give you a couple of data points from what you said, I think the number of doctors in India, we have only 0.6 doctors per 1,000, whereas the global norms is 1 doctor every 1,000. And let me just say that if you look at the allopathic doctors, then it's 1 for every 10,189. That's the level of inadequacy. One particular one I would want to talk of is number of beds. we have only 0.5 beds per thousand in this country. The global norm is 5 per thousand. And I want to specifically highlight this one because there's a very important story here, that there's actually been a decline since 2010. So this is also a story of decline in terms of the health infrastructure. And then this runs across. So, and this goes on to, if you look at the paramedics. So in terms of health infrastructure, we are woefully inadequate. And we've just not really taken any serious measures. And just let me, because it's linked to the investments that we talked of. So if you give me a minute more on the infrastructure linked, and then looking at the investments in GDP. Yeah,
sure.
In terms of GDP, and you did talk about it, that we are just 1.25. But let me say that consistently over the last 20 to 30 years, as in I started working professionally in 95, since then, every successive government, every 5-year plan, every election manifesto, and that's across political parties, has promised 2 to 3% of GDP in terms of health infrastructure. And what we're looking at is it's consistently hovered around 1.25%. And let me just give the comparative picture is very, very critical. Brazil actually does 9.2%. South Africa does 8.1, Russia does 5.3, China does 5, and even Bhutan and Sri Lanka 2.5 and 1.6. So even in our neighborhood, and very often we call the peers in terms of BRICS, the investments are much higher. And let me just add one more data point, and then I'm happy to stop and respond to your other questions. But what is very important is to actually look at the health budget of this year. There was a decline this year from the revised estimates of last year's health budget. And we're talking of in the middle of the devastating pandemic that we have seen. There's a clear decline in the health budget. So that's how we've been looking in health. And I really think that the question that you're asking, why is it not a political priority, is bang on. And I think we need to crack it, because these are ultimately the manifestations of how in our democracy it's not been prioritized, whereas we have seen enough studies, enough research to tell us how one illness in a family leads to people, the entire family, sliding back to poverty.
In fact, it is world over, people sliding into poverty. A health crisis is the number one reason the world over, not just in our country. So Sujata ji, I would just like to tell our audience also about your experience, because you've been a civil servant of 36 years. Out of that, 20 years you were with the Ministry of Health, and you were actually the Union Secretary of the Ministry of Health. You have seen it from the inside. Now, this question, between you, Manoj ji and Pawan ji, all would have a take on it, but you go first. One is, when budgets are decided, just like Amitabh said, ki Brazil mein to it's about 9%, over 9% is the allocation. When budgets are decided, when people like you sit and are consulted, how much of your actually advice is taken, why doesn't it become bigger? Doubly in a year when we saw such a huge pandemic, and as Amitabh says, it's gone down. Is it that there is no incentive for politicians to do it because there is no demand? It's from the voter, because the government has an infrastructure that rivals anybody, and we've been on a discussion on private versus public. Why is it that in spite of this is, I think, the third or fourth session we're doing on health, and over the last few years, so many people started focusing on it, we don't see an impact? Why is that?
Politicians in our country are driven by very short-term goals. And I would like to be excused by both Professor Manoj Kumar and by, I don't know who else you have in your panel from the political scene. Mr. Singhdeo, I hope, hasn't joined me and hasn't heard. But, they're driven by the short-term goals of what will get me the votes to continue to stay in power. So, and health particularly primary care and preventive care, vaccinating children or vaccinating against COVID. These are not something that will get you the gratitude of the people and get you the votes. And so therefore, health as a sector has never been of political priority. It was only the first time that we saw some political prioritization being given was in 2004 when UPA came in. And three things happened at that time. That was not because the politicians loved the health sector, not at all. It was three things that happened. The NSSO rural survey came out showing that impoverishment was largely on account of deaths people were taking in health. UP and Bihar were badly affected with people getting indebted on account of health and getting impoverished in the process. That was very, very critical data that came before them. The second was that continuous cutting back on health budgets due to the IMF loan and the structure adjustment that took place in 1992, where barring malaria and national health programs like leprosy and TB control and so on, completely, there was just no money with the Ministry of Health to expand your hospital infrastructure or invest on any other activity besides the national health programs. And therefore, the cutback but there was a demand in society for healthcare. There was a demand for non-communicable disease treatment. And this was then given into privatization. So the more privatization came in, state began to withdraw. So all this created a huge crisis, and that is why the UPA really put, for the first time, health on a priority. And though in terms of GDP, it was not very much higher than 1% of GDP, but in terms of real resources, the budget went threefold high. We've never seen such a huge step up of budgets as we saw during UPA 1.
Mr. I had one question, Mr. If you could just factor that question also in. I just had one question. When you're saying when the budget is made, I mean, we hear about the budget, and I've been in the news space for a very long time. Do individual ministers actually jostle for more allocation? Like, would the health minister say, you know what, this is important, when they say to the finance minister or the prime minister that increase my allocation? Does it actually happen like that? Do we see that kind of an engagement?
For people in the health sector and education, it's deeply humiliating the way we go begging for funding. Previously to the Planning Commission, to the Finance Ministry, we were the last priority. And that's not because they were not good people. It is just that the tax to GDP ratio is so low. Our resources, the position is so low. Our liabilities are so high. The whole macroeconomic paradigm where money to spend on health, I mean, even if you were the prime minister, in the given structure of financing, you won't be able to give 3% of GDP to health, because then the education also requires 6% of GDP. And so it's equally vital. So does agriculture require 5% of GDP, which is equally vital. So, where do you make your priorities? As long as 50% of your resources are committed to pensions and other liabilities, your tax to GDP is not increasing. You're giving huge concessions to, there's no wealth tax. I mean, the whole taxation structure needed to undergo a change. So when the macroeconomic position is not strong, you're not able to. But having said that, I've come to believe, Abhinandan, that, it's not the money which is really important. It is a commitment to say that this is a guaranteed entitlement I want to give every citizen in this country. Show me any political party which is committed to an ideology like UK was. After all, the National Health Service was born in Second World War when the whole economy was in shambles, if you remember, in 1947, after Second World War. And that's when they introduced universal health coverage for the British people. Now, it's not the money, it is the intention to say, I will give these entitled services to our citizens, and come what may, that will be met and that money will be made available. So that kind of a commitment is not what we're seeing, because commitment in that case would come into governance and it would come into financing being in sync and your prioritization. Today, a politician, if he is very committed to health, it is seen in terms of hospitals that he'll put up, medical colleges that he will open, or in insurance schemes that will be floated. These are the three ways in which political interest in health is expressed. But that's not what is needed for the health system to really evolve into an equitable, affordable, and accessible health system that we desire. So there is a huge gap between what needs to be done, what is understood as politically attractive in terms of perceptions that it creates, and the lack of a genuine commitment for health and education in our polity. And I don't blame any one thing. This is the way the development dialogue has been going on. And I really think there should be a massive shift in the dialogue. But it's very hard because it's electorally not very...
I hope we do, impact some sort of change in dialogue and the scenario. But, Pavan and Manoj, you can both come in.
Pavan Kumar is there. I don't see his photo. That's why I thought he'd left.
No, Pavan is here. Mr. Singh Deo for some reason is delayed, but he'll join us as soon as he gets here. Now, Pavanji, you have, you work closely with the late Sheila Dikshit, who was an extremely popular Chief Minister of Delhi. You have been involved in politics in various capacities, now as a spokesperson. I mean, my fraternity should take a huge blame that prime time healthcare is not important. Matlab 66 children can die in Gorakhpur. We will be doing Hindu Muslim. तो ठीक है, वन इज मीडिया हमने जितनी बद पीटी है इस इशू की मान लिया, बट when you actually, and just if you could approach this very analytically, when you're actually making strategies for winning elections, is healthcare something that could even get you votes? Like for example, we saw in America, and Indian journalists भी मजाक उड़ाते रहे, America is such a stupid country, half of America will not be able to point Asia on a map वगैरह, but हाँ, Obama care was a key electoral issue. In fact, even after Obama went in Trump's time, Obama care was a key electoral issue. So they do realize that's an important aspect. हमारे यहाँ क्या वोटर ही इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है कि पॉलिटिशियन ही इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है? Is it chicken or egg situation? Like, why is it that?
Increasingly, I feel that the space for fault line politics has really increased in this country. Now, it happens whenever extreme left or extreme right takes charge of the narrative or of the political space. Then the space for issue-based politics reduces and fault line politics goes up. Now, 3 months, not even 3 months, barely 3 months after a pandemic wherein each one of us has lost either a relative or a friend or a loved one, someone or the other. There is no outrage, no hashtag being trended on social media, no debates going on in the mainstream media, thanks to News Laundry and Oxfam, that there is a debate on this. But where is the outrage? And blaming the political class, of course, it's very tempting. When I was an activist, I would always blame the political class. When I was in media, I would always blame the political class. But it's the easiest and the laziest option on earth. Where is the demand? Where is the demand for these issues? When Rajput versus Gujar fight fetches me more, when a Hindu versus Muslim fight fetches me more eyeballs, more TRPs, as media also. So I'm not blaming the society by and large. What I'm trying to say is it's very easy to expect the political class to stop generating that kind of politics. Now, whether demand is there or supply creates its own demand is something which we need to discuss. But as though supply is the only thing which is responsible for creating the demand.
Pavanji, blame game aside, I want to ask you, blame game aside, I get that, but I mean, I just want to approach this from a clinical kind of position. Like, I mean, I was a part of the Jan Lokpal movement, and we have at that time been on debates together. So it's like whether it is good or bad. I see, Kejriwal going to Uttarakhand saying free bijli dunga, Punjab saying free bijli dunga. So free bijli clearly wins votes. He fought Delhi on anti-corruption. Whether corruption has gone down or not is debatable. But that gets. Is it conceivable that someone goes and says, "Aspatal banaunga"? Does that actually make people come? Because you have been part of campaigns. So just approach it clinically. Forget the blame game. And this not fighting on health grounds predates the insanity of television news. ऐसा नहीं है कि पहले हेल्थ इशू होती थी और टेलीविजन न्यूज आने का बाद हिंदू मुस्लिम हो गई, पहले भी नहीं होती।
Abhinandan, my own limited experience in Delhi at least was that at a micro level, issues did matter and this, I hope, still matter. मेरे कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी में अस्पताल 100 बेड का आएगा कैन बी अ वेरी वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग प्रॉमिस व्हिच विल फेच यू वोट्स, बट द ओनली टाइम Bijli and Pani become an electoral issue, unfortunately, is when someone promises you free Bijli and Pani. Is not ideal kind of politics. I'd like to also talk about, I mean, you can't expect a politician to be clinical. I need to have, I mean, I think passionately about issues, so don't expect me to be clinical.
Sure,
First,
sure.
So I will say the way I have to say, the way I think. So pardon my doing so, I will continue to do, right? So at a micro level, if it can become an issue in X's constituency, in Amitabh's constituency, why can't it be expanded to a macro level politics? Is then we come to another ideological debate. Are we getting into a transactional politics? Now, is that also an ideal form of politics? So therefore, it's an interplay between transaction, ideology, equity, justice, so many factors coming together to weave a proper ideal politics that we are talking about. So we need to, as a society, also find out what do we expect from our politics. Do we expect a mandir? Do we expect assertion of a particular caste's identity or a religion's identity? All that is, after all, politicians also come from the same society.
Sure.
Where experts come from, where the media comes from. So I can't stand up and blame the media today, just as you can't stand up and blame politics today. We need to come together and think of how, as a society, we prioritize.
So, Professor Jha, you've been, now involved in education and in politics. You've been with the Janata Dal. Now, in Bihar, where there is such a huge health issue, it was always one of the concerns was कि अगर वहां पर फैल गया, of course हुआ नहीं COVID. Now I don't know whether the numbers were not counted or whatever the reason is. The poverty levels are more alarming there, and therefore the UP and Bihar, that in case of pandemics, going out and really spreading at an alarming rate, वहां पर damage बहुत जबरदस्त होगा. यही सवाल मैं आपसे पूछूंगा कि क्या जैसे फ्री बिजली पर इतने चुनाव जीते जाते हैं, हेल्थ केयर पर क्यों नहीं जीते जा सकते? क्या लोग एक्चुअली इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है? आप तो उनसे संपर्क में रहते हैं, आप उनसे इतना बात करते होंगे.
Abhinandan ji, let me put things in a little perspective. On 20th of July this year, there was a debate on Corona second wave in Parliament, and therein I spoke about right to health. Interestingly, I'll tell you, I expected BJP leaders to be troubled by this, but mostly leaders from all political parties, they came to me and they said that it's time we should work together on this. So what I'm wanting to state, and I will pick up from what Sujata ji said very clearly, you need to look at the fact that your constitutional history, your political history had a massive engagement with this idea of public health, right to health. I mean, if you look at Nehru report or Karachi resolution and even the draft constitution prepared by Socialist Party of India, I think that the concern which Amitabh Banerjee's Oxfam report brings in, these are the kind of critical realities we always knew. Maybe not in exact numbers, we always knew, but I would say the successive governments, they thought that if elections could be contested without it, if in elections, these issues could be set aside, then democracy is comfortable. Winning and losing are on different parameters. But interestingly, our constitution or our contemporary political history begins, contemporary, I mean 1947 onwards. This was the first pandemic in the memory of an independent republic that is called India. This pandemic, I would not share your or say Pawanji's kind of thing, that transactional politics and why should, I would believe that this is opening up an avenue where if democracies don't discuss right to health kind of issues in that perspective, then there is serious concern about the very health of democracy itself. And I can smell that, I can see that this is happening. Now, unless what about allocation, Sujata is very right. Education and health, please also understand, they go for with a begging bowl. But these are the two sectors which have been hugely impacted by the neoliberal policies. Making, say, a 5-star hospital, we all clapped. I mean, Apollo will be in Delhi, Max shall be in Delhi. What are they delivering? In your country, the problem is of, in my country, the problem is of accessibility, affordability. And these hospitals don't break that chain. This pandemic exposed it badly. So I am of the view that if the media rumble is talking about it, if I receive letters from different quarters of this country that please work on right to health, please work on right to health, I see an optimism. I see a paradigm shift in the kind of politics we shall have. Because, you know, this pandemic, I share with Pawanji, I said it in parliament, nobody in this country can say that he did not lose someone he knew or she knew directly or indirectly with that kind of loss. The governments of the day, I don't only blame the central government, even the state government. You brought an interesting figure of Bihar. Bihar first data in RT-PCR test. And that was carried by a major national daily. Now, I always believe that anybody who does not believe in God must visit Bihar. He'll come as a huge believer in God, because in spite of everything, Bihar suffered a less loss of life. But I'll stop my argument at this point of time, at this point, that look, we need to work on right to health. Civil society, right to information did not come because of the benevolence of the government. People got it, fought for it, they got it. You remembered Kamala Bhasin, I mean, Amitabh ji, these were the people. I think we need to also think of changing the very contour of politics. And once health, education, inclusion, more important is inclusion, they become a major issue. I think no political party can set it aside. Even a temple or a promise of a mosque or a Samshan, Kabristan or a Bajan shall actually vanish. There comes a time in any country's cycle, political cycle, Germany saw it for quite long, but then that cycle, what Oswald Spengler said, in Rise and Fall of Civilization, anything which goes up has to come down, and coming down has begun.
Thank you, Professor Jha. Although, I mean, on an upside, शायद स्वास्थ्य अब एक will become an issue. आपकी speech तो viral हो गई थी health पर. कम से कम maybe that is a starting point. Mr. Singhvi has joined us. Namaskar, sir. Thank you for making the time to come. तो Mr. Singhvi actually छत्तीसगढ़ के स्वास्थ्य मंत्री हैं, तो आपकी राज्य के हम actually discuss कर रहे थे कि कई aspects हैं और data हमने काफी डाला था. By the way, the Oxfam report, the link to that report is on the comment section. So I urge everyone watching, आप उस link को click कीजिए और वो report download करके पढ़िए. आपको बहुत alarming statistics मिलेंगे health indicators के हमारे देश में. तो छत्तीसगढ़ में एक राष्ट्रीय स्वास्थ्य बीमा योजना लॉन्च हुई थी 2009 में बीपीएल फैमिलीज के लिए. 2012 में ये नॉन बीपीएल फैमिलीज के लिए भी एक्सटेंड हुई थी, मुख्यमंत्री स्वास्थ्य बीमा योजना, और ये यूनिवर्सल स्कीम हो गई थी. एक बार 30 रुपए देने होते हैं और इंश्योरेंस कार्ड मिल जाता है. एनुअल इंश्योरेंस एंटाइटलमेंट फॉर हॉस्पिटलाइजेशन फ्रॉम 30,000 to 50,000, ये 2013 के इलेक्शन मैनिफेस्टो में था. तो सिंघवी जी, हम बात कर रहे थे अभी, एक तो एंगल है कि मीडिया कवर नहीं करता, एक एंगल है ब्यूरोक्रेटिक इश्यूज होते हैं. हम अभी इस पर बात कर रहे थे कि जैसे बिजली पर चुनाव जीते जाते हैं, जब हमारे देश में जब इतने सारे लोगों के पास हेल्थ एक्सेस नहीं है, ये इस स्कीम के दम पे क्या चुनाव जीता जा सकता है? क्यों है कि हेल्थ एक इशू नहीं रहता चुनावों के दौरान, जैसे मंदिर रहता है या बिजली रहती है? या मुझे याद है मध्य प्रदेश में 2000 जब दिग्विजय सिंह जी को उमा भारती ने हराया था, बिजली सड़क पानी, दैट वाज द फर्स्ट बिजली सड़क पानी पे इलेक्शन जीता गया था. कहते तो वे थे, लेकिन पता नहीं कुछ हुआ उसका कि नहीं. ये क्यों है? वोटर इंटरेस्टेड नहीं है? आपका क्या एक्सपीरियंस रहा है?
थैंक यू अभिनंदन जी. हिंदी इंग्लिश दोनों चल रहा है, तो
दोनों चल रहा है, हाँ जी,
most of the speakers have spoken in English, so I'll follow suit.
हाँ जी.
Amitabh ji is here, Sujata ji is here, Pawan ji is here, Manoj ji is here, and all the other panelists. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to interact. I am a votary for universal healthcare, universal health coverage, universal healthcare, whatever you would like to call it. And uncompromisingly, I am a votary for that. That is my personal view, personal. We have in Chhattisgarh just come out with a report together with WHO, UNICEF, etc. Regarding the idea of an action. We have termed it a formative plan for the rollout of universal health coverage in Chhattisgarh. It is also an agenda for us, a political agenda for us, in the sense that my personal commitment, in addition to and apart from party's commitment to right to health, the Congress party had it in its manifesto for the Lok Sabha election in 2014, as well as in 2019. And we as Congress...
Does it actually, when you actually go out and campaign, does it draw the kind of reactions from the crowd some of the other speeches do, in your experience? What have you noticed?
Certainly. If you are able to present it in a proper manner, what is it that you're trying to convey? If you present it as an academic sort of commitment, I would say that when we brought out this agenda in the 2014 Lok Sabha election Congress party manifesto, there were two rights mentioned in that. And I think both went unnoticed, more or less unnoticed, very sadly. One was right to health and one was right to housing. Not as a scheme, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Earlier it was Indra Awas Yojana. So that is a yojana, but as a right, every individual on Indian soil is to have a roof over their head as a right. Did it get across to the voter? Right to health, did it get across to the voter? Did we even understand? Congress party, after having it in its manifesto, did not get even 50 seats in the Lok Sabha. As far as I am concerned, they should have got 400 or 500 seats on just one agenda. Right to health. We did not either understand or get the people to understand. You also mentioned about the traction with the voter. We had it in our 2018 manifesto, and Rahul ji, on his visit to Raipur, he launched universal healthcare for Chhattisgarh as part of the agenda. Right to health as right to information, right to education, right to work, etc. That is a goal which we have to legislate for. You are bound by legislation to provide right to healthcare, which is primary to tertiary. We are a little removed from that, so the hesitation to enshrine it as a right through either parliament or the assembly, we don't have the wherewithal yet to. Is that the goal? 100%. Are you clapped when you announce that you're going to provide healthcare? Wherever we went for our election rallies, when we are able to present it as something beyond a cynical proposition, ओ ये नेता लोग आते हैं बोलते हैं कि ये हम फ्री में दिलाएंगे और हम अस्पताल जाएंगे तो हमसे तो पैसा लेगा, डॉक्टर मिलेगा भी कि नहीं मिलेगा, डॉक्टर होगा भी कि नहीं होगा. One side there is a deep cynicism that is it going to be possible. On the other side is the reality that healthcare is a poverty trap. So is it just an academic issue that we talk about that in spite of many beneficial and beneficiary schemes for the common person to alleviate poverty, have we factored in health as a major stumbling block to pull people out of the poverty trap? I don't think it is visualized or conveyed. But when you translate it, when the BJP or the NDA government announced 5 lakh as a healthcare scheme, was it accepted politically? Most certainly. Most certainly. Did it contribute to their election success? I think yes. In my constituency, I was talking with people. What is the feedback coming from persons? And one of my close associates told me that the bai who comes to their house to do housework, when they asked her, who are you going to vote for? She said BJP. They said, why? BJP is this, BJP is that. She said कि वो 5 लाख का health का हमको देगा.
So it is becoming an issue that can get votes. I mean, that's encouraging. I mean, hopefully that
It is, and it should be, and it must be.
More and more. I mean, but Amitabh, you know, we've discussed this many times और panels पे भी सुजाता जी के साथ बैठा हूँ कि like डॉक्टर होगा कि नहीं होगा, you know, अभी सिंधु जी ने बताया. In a country, if we take the basics की भी demand and supply, आपके reports में कभी ये आता है कि इतनी डॉक्टर्स की किल्लत है देश में, तो why isn't it that doctors are difficult to get? Like for example, मैं बताऊं अपनी, जब न्यूज लॉन्ड्री हम बना रहे, जब ऐप बनाना हो, टेक का बंदा ढूंढना इतना मुश्किल है क्योंकि कम लोग हैं. अब डॉक्टर्स की इतनी अगर कमी है, ऐसा क्यों नहीं है कि डॉक्टर्स और लोग बनना चाहते हैं क्योंकि डिमांड कम है? डॉक्टर्स डू वेरी वेल, डॉक्टर्स फिर भी अपने करियर चॉइस पर सर पटकते हैं. मैं कितने डॉक्टर्स से बात कर चुका हूं जैसे गलती करी मेडिसिन पढ़ के. Does your report shed light on that कि भाई इतनी अगर कम है सप्लाई, तो how come they are not better treated?
तो शुक्रिया अभिनंदन. इस विषय पर तो हमारी रिपोर्ट ने काम नहीं किया है, तो मैं इस पर स्पेसिफिकली नहीं कमेंट कर पाऊंगा. पर जो चर्चा हो रही है और जो जिससे रिलेटेड है, you know, and because you could kind of said let's be analytical in our conversation today, let me also just bring in one more aspect which has been kind of said by everyone, and that is the neoliberal framework that has in some ways changed the worldview of people actually looking at themselves, not necessarily as right-bearing citizens around health, and they start seeing as if health is really not a right. तो वो कंज्यूमर के रूप में देखा जो जाता है. I think it's been successful at some level, which is really a tragedy, and I'm really happy to hear Singh ji say that that's getting reversed. So you know, when people kind of do, आपने सड़क बिजली पानी की बात की, वहां पर शायद आम जनता को यह लगता है कि ये सरकार की पूरी तरह से जिम्मेदारी है. स्वास्थ्य में वो कई दफे मानने को तैयार है कि मेरे पास अपने रिसोर्सेज नहीं है, मुझे तो निजी डॉक्टर के पास जाना पड़ेगा, तो वो सरकार को उतनी ही जिम्मेदार नहीं ठहराता स्वास्थ्य के लिए. और जब तक, जैसे सिंहदेव जी कह रहे हैं, जब तक स्वास्थ्य को अधिकार नहीं बनाएंगे और उसके लिए जो पूरी शिक्षा की जरूरत है, जागरूकता की जरूरत है, वो नहीं करेंगे, तो हम लोग तो उस दिशा में जा रहे हैं जहां निजीकरण को पूरी तरह से हमने सच मान लिया है और सही रास्ता मान लिया है. और अभिनंदन, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि there is you know, all said and done this, there is this politics of cynicism, whether you call it in the name of Mandir Masjid or in the name of the kind of nationalism, jingoism that we hear. And it is not a politics of imagination, where we can talk about the fundamental issues that affect people.
But one would think it would change after we saw a pandemic like this. Did your reports show that? Is there any change that after, like, we have all lost someone close? I mean, I lost such a young, phenomenal desk editor. He was in his 30s.
Yes,
he died
yes,
of COVID. We've all lost someone. Have you seen it shift at all?
So Abhinandan, similarly, I lost one of my colleagues who was actually working on the humanitarian relief. I would not be able to really say that the shift is there. As Pawanji was saying, I also feel at times saddened that the level of outrage that we should have seen, it is, you know, it was one of the most heart-wrenching times that we would have seen. I lived through Bhopal. I was a school student, but the Bhopal gas tragedy, I lived there. But what we saw in April and May and June, it was absolutely heartbreaking. I know of our own friends, dear friends, actually influential friends, waiting at a hospital lobby and dying. And after that, also, we do not see the outrage that I think we deserve, and at least the departed souls deserve. We need to have right to health as an absolutely non-negotiable right. And let me just say, you know, on this, with the politics of cynicism that I'm talking of, I do think, and I'm really happy that Manojji talked of, say, right to information. I do feel that in democracies, it takes longer. But if the rights are not guaranteed by the constitution and the state, then people will rest those rights. The way right to information was done through people's movement, I'm absolutely convinced. And that's the politic of imagination that people need to invest in making right as a critical question, the way we talk of employment, I think health has to be one of the fundamental non-negotiable responsibilities of the state.
Well, the earlier the better. Sujataji, there's a very interesting question that's come from Nandan Latwal, one of our viewers. He says, if an Indian state adopts healthcare policies like UK, don't you think each of us would likely move out to that state? Is that even possible in the bureaucratic structure? Nandan ka interesting sawal. Is that possible and is that likely?
I don't think people will move to a state only because there's a healthcare system that is caring. But, what I think, Abhinandan, is that, see, politics and health. I recall in 2009, when Andhra Pradesh, under Dr. Y. Rajshekar Reddy, he won an election, and the general feeling was that at least a 5% swing in votes was largely because of his government-sponsored health insurance scheme. That was the largest in the country at the time. And he was an innovator. He was the first state to have brought this universal health insurance program and offered it. And when interviews and surveys were done as to why people voted for Congress because of that, was the feeling that, the stress level has gone. That if we need hospitalization, there is a state that is guaranteeing that expenditure for us. So that was a very big feeling. And the second policy introduced was to get, medical vehicles to go into villages and hold health camps once a month. So all the old and the elderly and all that could get basic tests. The health camps consisted of a laboratory technician, a nurse, and a doctor. So most of the health records were computerized, and that was another very successful scheme. So then that feeling that generated was the government cares, government bothers about. So, very much, I'm not a politician, and I think Pavanji and our Honorable Minister from Chhattisgarh and Manojji, they are into politics, they should be able to tell me. But there is this feeling of giving the sense of caring and that you matter to us is a very strong perception if it can be conveyed successfully to the people, which is what, again, we see in Andhra Pradesh today with Mr. Jagan's policies of giving money for, huge welfare agenda that he pursues. And, constructing sub-centers, constructing PHCs. So there is this activity to try and say that I care for your basic fundamental rights. So I think that needs to come. Whereas if you have a dry health insurance program of 5 lakhs or something, that is not necessarily going to be so attractive to them, because most of the time reaching that 5 lakhs or outpatient treatment, you spend a lot of money, and that's where the indebtedness is taking place. After all, this Ayushman Bharat is only if you get admitted into a hospital.
Yes.
And not more than 3% of the population. But it is the overall. So
and that also depends on the availability of bed, now to get
so that depends on your strengthening the government hospitals, public hospitals, that people get free treatment. And that's, today COVID, you saw, it was the public sector hospitals that really took the flak in terms of, treating the first wave one. Private sector literally shut its doors. And it was only, and then the second wave, they made huge money. I mean, the CAGR of private sector hospitals went up to 22%. Look at the money they made on COVID. So, the issue really is, and the government was not willing to regulate the private sector. People see, the poor people see what's happening. People see what the public policy response has been to their own suffering. And I think the voting pattern would therefore be guided by that. One last point I want to make is that in conversations I've had with people, when you say, is health the highest priority, even today, if you were to go to a village and do a survey, will health be priority one? No. It will still be water supply, piped water supply at home, a toilet. If women have to go and defecate outside, that matters a lot to them. Nutrition, food. Today, hunger is the biggest problem, whether we want to accept it or not. That's a huge issue. So nutrition, so there in the scale of priorities for the people, health really comes somewhere like 4th or 5th.
And I think that maybe also
when you package this whole thing, as we care for the health and well-being of you citizens, which means you're going to get water, toilets, sanitation, and nutrition along with basic health care. I think it really carries a message. And, last point, Rajasthan gave free medicines in the hospitals. Generic drugs were universally made available in Rajasthan. That was another pioneering state that did, and later other states followed. Huge impact it had, and I think it got a lot of brownie points in the elections. It did make a difference. So these are things that matter.
I mean, to your point that it'll come lower down, I think it is. I was shooting a documentary film in Rajasthan about 20 years ago, and I had gone to the village of the waterman of India, Rajinder Singh, I think Bhikampura. He has a water conference. So I was in a neighboring village, and one of those, little riyasats, this 24-year-old boy comes out of this castle in a very poor village, and this 70-year-old Tau starts touching his feet. So I said, why would you touch a 24-year-old guy's feet? Especially he has a pool in his house. You don't even have water to drink. He said, that's how it's been. So I think if you haven't seen good health, you will never ask for good health. But
Expectation is never so high.
So we've got a question from a viewer, Abdul, and we have similar questions. So I mean, it's all along the same lines that after the second wave, when it happened, do you think politicians will manage to make the voting issues non-health, or after this it is possible? We have 5 states going to the polls next year. Pavanji, Manojji, and Singhdeoji, you can tell us, because this is a question that is recurring from viewers. Is it possible to go to the voter with this issue now? Pavanji, you want to go first?
Is it possible for the voters to reject the kind of politics that we try and impose on them? Some of us do impose this kind of politics. It's all in the hands of the voters also. I mean, none of us has the moral courage of a Gandhi who could talk about untouchability in that day and age. So I can't expect to have a Gandhi from amidst us at this point who will say, hell with everything else, I will talk about health, and that's my politics. You want to vote for me, otherwise go vote for anyone else. It's not possible. After all, we are all in a competitive space. So I don't know what my senior colleague, Mr. T.S. Singhdev, has to say to that, or Manojji has to say to it. But it's a two-way traffic. You can't expect your politics to be bereft of the issues which society responds to.
Right. Manojji, what is your view? You think if अगर आपकी स्पीच वायरल हो सकती है तो ये मुद्दा वायरल क्यों नहीं हो सकता?
देखिए अभिनंदन जी, मैं एक साफ तौर पे एक बात कहूं, और दिक्कत क्या होती है ना कि जैसे हम पॉलिटिक्स और पॉलिटिशियन को एक ऐसे खाने में डाल देते हैं कि ये उनका मामला है, वो कैसे सोचते हैं, और हम जैसे लोग जो अभी तक ना पूरी तरह पॉलिटिशियन हुए हैं ना शिक्षा छोड़ पाए हैं। मेरा सिर्फ इतना मानना है कि देखिए, जो मैंने शुरू में कही, डेमोक्रेसी को अगर थ्राइव करना तो नागरिक के अधिकारों के इर्द गिर्द चीजों को बनाना होगा, उसकी बनावट और बुनावट तय करनी होगी। अब पेंडेमिक में जैसे हम में से सब ने कहा, पूरे पेंडेमिक में उतना हाहाकार, उतनी बेबसी मैंने अपनी जिंदगी में कभी नहीं देखी। यकीन मानिए, लोगों का फोन आता था, डर से हाथ कांपता था। अभी भी इस फोन में कम से कम 10-12 ऐसे नाम है जो दुनिया में नहीं, और मुझे डिलीट करने की हिम्मत नहीं पड़ रही है। तो इस पेंडेमिक ने झकझोरा जरूर है। लेकिन पवन जी जो एक बात कह रहे थे, दिक्कत क्या है अभिनंदन भाई, कि मेमोरी इरेजर भी बहुत लोग चलाते हैं। अब जैसे गंगा में बहती लाशें थी, हम सब जानते थे वो लाशें बह रही थी, नंबर्स को छुपाया जा रहा था, और उसके बाद अब देखिए कि उसी राज्य में मुद्दा क्या चलाया जा रहा है। तो वो जो मेमोरी इरेजर है, ये उसमें मैं अक्सर मानता हूं कि इसको सिर्फ पॉलिटिशियन के भरोसे मत छोड़िए, या पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज के नहीं। कोई भी मौलिक अधिकार से जुड़ा मामला सिर्फ पॉलिटिशियन पर अगर आप छोड़ेंगे तो उनकी प्रायोरिटीज में हो सकता है वो तब ना है। और मैंने उदाहरण दिया था राइट टू इंफॉर्मेशन का, शायद हमें उस तरह की चीजों की जरूरत पड़े। और एक और चीज, आखिरी टिप्पणी मेरी होगी कि पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज के अंदर भी, अक्रॉस पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज तो हम बात ही कर रहे हैं, विद इन पॉलिटिकल पार्टी हमारी पूरी कोशिश ये होनी चाहिए कि अगर संविधान सभा की बैठकों में राइट टू हेल्थ पे बात हो सकती है, मैं बात कर रहा हूं, आप सोचिए कि आज से 70-73 साल पूर्व। तो आज के दौर में आप अगर पार्लियामेंट के सेशन को देखिए, हेल्थ पे चर्चा का अगर क्वांटम आप निकालेंगे तो वो बजट एलोकेशन की ही तरह है। वहां भी बेगिंग बोल लेके ही जाना पड़ता है। मैंने सदन में कहा था कि इस देश ने हेल्थ पर कितनी प्राथमिकता से सोचा, उसके नतीजे में हमने पेंडेमिक में वो हाहाकार देखा। लेकिन मैं एक सिल्वर लाइन अभी देख रहा हूं। मेरा सिर्फ यह मानना है कि चूंकि क्षति इस बार निजी हुई है, ये भी लोगों को पता चला है कि जिन 5 सितारा अस्पतालों में मैं बात कर रहा हूं, प्रभुत्वशाली वर्ग की, धनी वर्ग की, जिन्हें लगता था कि वो कुछ भी अफोर्ड कर सकते हैं, उन्हें भी एहसास हो गया मनी कांट बाय यू एनीथिंग, contacts don't deliver. When that kind of helplessness or sense of despair sets in, I tell you, it's we the people who will carry this. It's just a matter of time. I'm 100% hopeful. If it could be 101%, I won't be surprised.
I hope they do. But Singh ji, you to run a full health ministry. Often the blame is just finally समेट समुट के politicians के सामने रख दिया जाता है. But if you could answer that question, do you think it would be, the public would be responsive? And if you could just give us, from a regular person's, what are the huge challenges in actually running the health ministry? That when we say कि bed कम है, ये कम है, वो कम है, of course there's a resource crunch, but is there a push that the health ministry can say, you know what, सिक्योरिटी, वीआईपी सिक्योरिटी से आप इतना खर्च कर रहे हैं, वो तो मुझे दे दीजिए? ऐसी कॉन्वर्सेशन होती है क्या? इज दैट पॉसिबल एट ऑल?
It is certainly possible. It is doable. It can be done, and I hope it will be done. Regarding this, I think between Sujata ji and Pawan ji, things have been put in a complete perspective. One, should the government be looking after health? First issue, public money as tax is collected. Should it take care of the healthcare of the people? We take a call on that. Yes or no? No. Close down all government facilities. Why do we need to invest public money, taxpayers' money, in something which is not required to be done in that way? We don't have a single public facility. We pay private practitioners from the government on behalf of the people, and you give healthcare. Choose what do you want to do. Do you want to put public money into public healthcare or not? If yes, then you have the primary, secondary, and the tertiary care sectors in public health. You need what for that? You need money for infrastructure. You need money for HR. You need money for equipment. You need money for drugs. Experience in Chhattisgarh, you have money for infrastructure. You are not running short of HR to the extent we talked about doctors. Today, we are not going to be short of sanctioned posts for medical officers. In these 2.5 to 3 years time, we have filled all posts for MBBS doctors that have been sanctioned by the government. More may be needed, but today we'll be short of 0. We will have all the posts for medical officers filled because we had adopted the system of a bonded commitment from the medical student that 2 years you will do public service. And so how many students are we getting each year from medical institutions? Let us say in Chhattisgarh, we are getting 700, 750. We have new medical colleges. It will time to come go up to 1,000. How many posts are you short for today? Medical officers, 111. And we have advertised for 400 and some medical officers. So the shortage of sanctioned posts of doctors in Chhattisgarh is already over. We need specialists. So that we are putting in promotion policies where through promotions today, all the specialist posts are to be filled. We are limiting that to up to 50% and 50% direct recruitment. So HR is doable. Do you have nurses? You may have shortage of doctors, but I mentioned we are going to have more doctors than you have sanctioned posts today. Do you have shortage of nurses? You don't. Do you have shortage of technicians in the terms of people with qualifications? You don't. So it can be done. Budget. Today we are investing 5.6%. What is the requirement in our report? 8 to 10%. So 8 to 10% of a 1 lakh crore budget is how much? 8,000 to 10,000 crores. Can we do it? We most certainly can. Can you fight an election only on health? Certainly not. Pawanji said, can you fight it only election? Practical sense would say that no political party would fight only on one point. and win an election. What did Sujata Rao ji say? She said these 4-5 priorities, health may be number 4 and 5. So no political party, I hope, gets a vote who doesn't have health even on 4 and 5. They should not get a single vote from its voters if they don't have healthcare in that sense of priority. Can you fight an election only on health? You will lose, because there are other needs you have to fulfill. So from a 1 lakh crore budget, we are targeting only 8 to 10%. Is it doable? Most certainly. It can be done. And I hope Chhattisgarh does it, and we don't see an influx of citizens of the country coming to Chhattisgarh.
I hope so too, that you do it, and it could be a model for others to follow. But thank you all. Thank you, Singh ji. Thank you, Pawan ji. Thank you, Sujata ji. Thank you, Amitabh ji. And thank you, Manoj ji. And I would just have one very important message for our audience, many of whom are young journalists, because the Media Rumble is attended by young journalists. Download this report. And while we often, whether in our reports, today I was seeing in the front page of both the newspapers that I read, is the 4 deaths at the Rohini court at a shootout. It occupied half the page. It was bold lines, including the young reporters at News Laundry. We have very young reporters. Often when you go to your editor with edit meetings, you may not have the ideas. Read the report and push your editors that the idea I have is not a crime idea. It is not a corruption idea. It is a health idea. Rather than just curse and put the blame all around, one step to improve something is make the invisible visible. The report has made the invisible visible. The second step is to make that message the mainstream normal message. So I would encourage all reporters, whenever you go for daily or weekly or bi-weekly edit meets, make sure at least 50% of the stories that you suggest that you want to do are health stories. And push your editor, shame your editor that commission a health story. Enough crime. On that note, I hope news professionals do their bit, and then we can maybe point fingers at others. Until then, we must live with what we get. Thank you, panel. Thank you, audience.